Get started with your list, Chairman.
Sure. Samantha Maldonado from the Politico.
Yes, hi. How's it going?
Good.
I'm curious about a couple things related to the budget. One is if you're actually expecting money from the federal government, and now that the capital plan is decreased, what's at risk of being cut?
Rick, you want to take the first stab at that?
Yeah, I'll take the first stab. Well, we are advocating as strongly as we know how to seek a positive response from the federal government, from the Congress, and from the administration on the basis of our request for $3 billion. That's a request that we made back in the spring. It was based on our projection that from March of 2020, this year, through March of 2022, the Port Authority, as a result of the coronavirus crisis, will lose $3 billion of revenue. Its capital plan was based on revenue projections, which obviously included that $3 billion. We have had widespread support from the New York and New Jersey delegations. We have gone to the leadership of the Congress. The delegations have gone to the leadership of the Congress, and we continue to press our case. I'll leave to you the characterization of the current state of cooperation at the Congress, but before we make final decisions with respect to exactly how we handle the capital plan in light of the shortfall of revenue, we want to know what federal aid will in fact come to us. Given that there's been the election of President-elect Biden, we are looking forward to an administration that we believe will be committed to infrastructure funding in addition to stimulus funding. So come back to your specific question. What we are doing at the present time with respect to the capital plan is we are pushing forward on projects that are currently in construction. The leading example of projects in construction represent the rebuilding of LaGuardia Airport and the building of a brand new 21st century terminal at Newark Airport with its associated new parking facilities and centralized rental car facility. But there are multiple other projects that are in construction. What is at risk is projects that are not in construction. And that is really where we are. So we intend to see what this round of discussion with respect to stimulus funding, we will certainly look to understand what initiatives, once the Biden administration has taken office, and it's really at that point that we will be forced to make final decisions as to how we handle projects that are in the pre-construction phase. And that's really where we are at the present time.
Yeah, and let me just add a point to that. So we have been, having very supportive conversations with the congressional delegation in New York and New Jersey, leading up right into the meeting today, and we're hopeful that something will bear some fruit eventually. In terms of, Rick went over, the capital spend. At some point, we have to start slowing down the spend, and if we have no aid or support, at some point, hard decisions will have to be made. And we just have to, the port has to spend less money, whether it's with employees or contracts or capital. At some point, if we don't get aid, something has to change. Let's move on to the next question. Paul from Wall Street Journal. Berger. I guess Paul's not there. David Porter from the AP.
Hi, can you hear me?
Hey, David.
Yes.
Hello, hey, hi, thanks. Good afternoon. Two things which are not really related, I don't think. First, the projections that you spoke about for traffic for next year, for bridges and tunnels, airports, paths, et cetera. I wonder if how those were arrived at, because I'm thinking of the MPA, which did projections. They hired somebody to do projections back in the spring that were way off. Now they've done more updated ones that are pretty sobering. I was wondering if you had where these came from, how they were arrived at, and how confident you are in them going forward, considering what's going on.
Well, the answer is that we are quite confident. That's not 100%. We're quite confident in these projections. If somebody, could people who are not speaking put themselves on mute? There's a lot of. Thank you. So the projections were arrived at based on both internal Port Authority projections from our planning and line department staffs in consultation with external experts. I don't know is anybody hearing this crosstalk?
Yeah, there's a lot of crosstalk, Rick. I'm hearing it as well. This is really, we got to eliminate the noise somehow, or we just can't finish the gaggle.
Anybody who's in a public area in particular, if they could. Thank you. These projections were the basis, as I was saying, of both extensive internal analysis by Port Authority staff as well as outside experts, and these were synthesized into scenarios going forward. We actually went through 2 rounds, so it somewhat reflects what you were referring to. The projections by everyone in the spring reflected more optimistic scenarios with respect to the recovery of airline traffic. In the course of the summer, projections, both our internal projections as well as those of sector experts outside the Port Authority, became more sober. And so over the summer, we incorporated that more sober projection in terms of the recovery of air traffic. So the projections that we are working on at the present time reflects a revision of our spring projections on the basis of the experience, additional information. Obviously, when projections become more refined, the more data you have and the more time goes by. So we're quite comfortable with the current projections, but they are. When I say that we project $2 billion of lost revenue from March of 20 through March of 22, every month that goes by has in fact come in relatively close to our new summer projections. So we actually project that by the end of this year, and we're obviously in December of this year, we will have booked $1.7 billion of revenue loss. And that puts us exactly on track in terms of our 24-month projection of a $3 billion revenue loss. So I guess what I would say to you, there are three inputs to our current projections. One is internal, in terms of our own experts within each of our operating divisions, plus our planning division, number one. Number two, external experts who we both consulted but continue to have access, many sector experts from the rating agencies to investment banks make projections, and all those are carefully examined and incorporated. And then third, we compare month by month how our projections are shaping up into what are our actual operating results. And at this point, though, all of those are syncing up around our current projections, on which the $3 billion revenue loss estimate is based.
Okay. Appreciate it.
Thanks, Rick.
Mr. Chairman, I believe Paul made it back on.
What's that?
Paul Berger made it back on, FYI.
Okay.
I'm going to go back to him.
Jesse Colburn from Newsday.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes.
Great. I wanted to ask if you can talk about any role Port Authority airports may be playing in the transportation of COVID-19 vaccines. Do you have a sense how many vaccine shipments have been or will be flown into JFK, LaGuardia, or Newark? And is the authority taking any special steps to facilitate the arrival or distribution of such shipments?
Well, the distribution of the vaccine rests with the two states, and specifically the departments of health of the two states. The airports are prepared and, in some instances, have been supporting requests. We have outlined our capabilities and to the two states in terms of whatever use they want to make them. But we are in a responsive role. We are not tracking vaccines, deliveries. What we are doing is responding in any way to any requests, and obviously we would attach the highest priority to them in terms of airport facilities being available and being supportive in terms of these the challenging distribution of vaccines. But the actual monitoring numbers, et cetera, of vaccine shipments rests with the two states.
Okay, thanks.
So, Mr. Chairman,
Do you want to go to the next?
you want to go to the next? Ben, who do we have next?
Let's go back to Paul Berger. Paul, if you're on.
I am. Hi, can you hear me?
Yes.
Hi, Rick.
Hi.
I just have a couple of questions to do with the World Trade Center. I understand that you are well along now in your procurement for the firm to take over or to continue or take over the management of the contract there. Could you give us an idea, just what kind of a response you saw, how many firms you're looking at, just where the process is at?
Well, the process is exactly where what you just described, Paul, which is that responses were received in the latter part of last month. There's an internal selection committee that has been appointed of relevant Port Authority employees. Those responses are being examined now by the procurement division and by the selection committee to decide how many of those meet the initial screen for consideration. And the selection committee is working away. Our goal is to have a decision by the end of the first quarter.
And, this time last year was when you were renewing the contract. So should I read anything into the kind of delay, or, is this kind of going to become a last-minute decision if the current Cushman contract only runs through the first half of 2021?
Well, the reason for the one-year extension, which I think we've said previously, was to enable the procurement process to run its course and to allow a transition period in the event a different firm was selected. So we're absolutely on the schedule that we laid out. The procurement was initiated very shortly after the one-year option was was approved. The response to that has now come in on the schedule that we set. The selection committee is now at work on the schedule that we projected back when the RFP was issued, and we believe that a 3 months transition will work well in the event it's a different firm from Cushman & Wakefield.
All right. Chairman, are you back on? All right. Next, we'll go to Dave Porter.
Ben, Amber, it looks like the chairman's been muted. He's the 973 number. If someone could unmute him.
One second.
I think I've sent a request to do so. Hopefully that will fix the problem.
Meanwhile, Dave, do you want to ask a question? Are you there? All right, going on to Pat McGeehan. Are you with us, Pat?
All right, can you hear me, Kevin?
Yeah. Oh, yes. Now, Mr. Chairman,
right.
I can. Yes.
Excellent. I thought someone was trying to keep me out of this thing. Clayton, Daily News? Okay.
Yeah, can you hear me?
Yes, we
Clayton,
can.
is that you? Yes.
Yep. Okay. Just two quick questions here. When it comes to any additional revenues to cover some of the budget deficit that you're seeing, are you guys looking at anything in that area, whether it's new dedicated taxes or an increase in fees or anything like that?
No, we haven't.
Okay, so nothing on that end. Okay, and then when you say, Rick, when you said earlier, I think you said the LaGuardia redevelopment is 77% complete. Does that percentage include the air train construction, and does that percentage include completed construction or just committed capital dollars?
Let me just go back to overall context and square one. So what the airport construction, the Terminal B portion of that is now 90% complete. If you look overall in terms of the building of the new passenger facilities at LaGuardia, it is approximately 60% complete because the Delta construction began a year and a half after the Terminal B construction, and therefore it will come in a comparable period of time later, and therefore it is less far along than the Terminal B project. Those percentages are based on the passenger terminal facilities and do not include the air train construction, which obviously hasn't begun yet.
All righty, let's move ahead to Michael Aronson from the Daily News. Ben, do we have Michael?
I don't think we do, but want to make sure we get Larry as well.
Larry back? Larry Higgs?
No, Larry, then we can go on to Colleen.
All right. Colleen Wilson from the Bergen Record?
Yes, hi.
Hey, Colleen.
Hey, I'll just ask real quickly. Can you guys comment on the LBA report and what kind of feedback you got from people about that and the two states, and what this could mean for Gateway, and how much of their assessment you're taking seriously as part of the future potential construction of the Gateway tunnels?
Well, maybe I'll start. I would say there are two propositions that all the parties involved share. First, there is a desperate may be the wrong word. That the need for the new tunnels are, as we've repeatedly said, is the most urgent infrastructure project in the country. All parties agree on that. All parties support vigorously the need for funding for new tunnels. The second is that all parties support the need to rehabilitate the old tunnels. The LBA report has put on the table, and it's obviously gotten a lot of attention, the question of what is the timing of the rehabilitation. Should it take place at the end of the process, meaning after the new tunnels have been built, or should the rehabilitation take place as soon as possible while the old tunnels remain in service and before the new tunnels are built? The resolution of that question, meaning the timing of the rehabilitation of the old tunnels, is going to be decided by the Gateway Development, currently corporation, soon to be the Gateway Development Commission. That is the entity to which the two states have delegated that responsibility. The only thing that I would emphasize is that the discussion is not the new tunnels, yay or nay. Everybody agrees the new tunnels are needed and supports the urgent construction of them. And what has stood in the way of that has been the total failure and abdication of responsibility on the part of the Trump administration. So it is that timing question that's under discussion. And as I say, that will be something that GDC will decide.
I wonder, though, if the Port Authority has an opinion about the merits of the report and its suggestions.
Well, that's really a matter for the Gateway Development Commission. We have obviously we have supported in every way the advancement of this project. Its urgency cannot be understated. So the Port Authority has in fact committed support of $1.7 billion worth of financing as financial support for the local share. Our board has reaffirmed that. But in terms of this discussion of the timing of the rehabilitation of the tunnels, we really have left that, I think, appropriately to GDC to decide.
Right. All right, let's move on to the last reporter, Pat McGeehan, New York Times. Motherfucker. Somebody's not muted.
I don't think Pat is with us, but I think Larry may have made it back on.
Okay.
Hello?
Larry?
Can you hear me?
Yes, Larry.
Can you hear me?
Oh, that's Pat.
I have a two-part question. Have you had conversations with President-elect Biden's transition team about further stimulus? And if so, what was the response? And if the anticipated federal funding isn't allocated, will this result in a doomsday plan similar to what the MTA has put forth?
Well, I would say we've talked to everyone we possibly can, including members of the Biden transition, to make our case for federal aid. We are a broken record, and we have repeated that to everyone who has a role to play, and that certainly includes the Biden transition. I don't think it's appropriate to go into particular conversations, but what I would say broadly, and this includes almost every conversation, I'm trying to think whether there's one that wouldn't be true, everyone recognizes the important role that the Port Authority plays in terms of both the infrastructure of the region and the role that its construction spending plays in driving economic activity.
And I'm sorry, Rick. Then the second part of your question, Larry, is whether there's a doomsday plan that's like hidden someplace in the Port Authority, 23rd floor. The answer is no, there is no doomsday. But listen, the reality is if we don't get federal funds, hard decisions will have to be made regarding operations, capital, and other things. But those are not, there is no doomsday plan stored away someplace. All right, Ben, is that, I think we got all the reporters, all 9 of them?
Yeah, Jeff Gappalatter from Airport Voice joined late. Wanted to give him a chance to ask a quick question before we wrap.
Okay.
Thank you, Ben. Hi, everybody. And season's greetings, everybody. Quick question. On the vaccine, will Port mandate vaccines for its employees and stakeholders at the Port Authority facilities?
Well, I'll tell you that we have not had that discussion yet. As far as I'm concerned, I wouldn't mandate, but we need to have a broader discussion about that. I intend to take it.
I would support the chairman.
Thank you.
All right, Ben, I think we're done. Thank you all.
Thanks, everyone.
Have a
Season's greetings. Happy holidays.
Thank you all.